As we've been hearing, the race for the White House is closer than ever, and this year's campaign has had many memorable moments. Not only has it been the most expensive presidential campaign in America's history, but it's also been riddled with gas and heated debate. Alex O'Hara reports.
Republican Mitt Romney is within striking distance of the White House, but along the way he's been criticised for seeming out of touch with middle America.
I drive a Mustang and a Chevy pickup truck. Ann drives a couple of Cadillacs, actually.
All right, there are 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they're victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them.
But he made up ground in the first presidential debate.
Going forward with the status quo is not going to cut it for the American people who are struggling today.
Obama didn't help himself by holding back. Romney then ruffled a few feathers by saying he would cut funding to public broadcasters.
I'm going to stop the subsidy to PBS. I'm going to stop other things. I like PBS. I love Big Bird.
In the next two debates, Obama asserted himself much more.
So you mentioned the Navy, for example, and that we have fewer ships than we did in 1916. Well, Governor, we also have fewer horses and bayonets.
Then along came Superstorm Sandy. Some commentators suggested the president's handling of the disaster helped his popularity, but not enough to guarantee the election. The candidates are still neck and neck, heading for result day. Alex O'Hara, 3 News.
Now, voting is well underway in the US presidential election. It's an anxious wait for Barack Obama and Mitt Romney after weeks of intensive campaigning. Which candidate has done enough to convince Americans they are the right man to lead the country for the next 4 years? Joining me now from Dunedin is international relations expert Robert Patman and in studio 60 Minutes reporter Guyon Espiner. Morning to you both. Thank you for coming in.
Good morning,
if
Rachel.
I can start with you, Professor, what are we watching for now? What is key at this stage?
Well, I think a couple of things we need to keep an eye on in the unfolding hours ahead. First of all, the level of turnout. The Democrats are probably more worried than the Republicans are about getting their people out to vote. And it was significant to me that Mr. Obama wound up his speech in Iowa, wound up the campaign in Iowa. Mr. Romney has continued to campaign on into Election Day, which suggests to me that Mr. Obama is signalling to campaign workers it's so important to get people who would support the Democrats out to vote. So they're worried about getting, not worried, but they're anxious to get their vote out. A second thing to watch, I think, is clearly movement in the battleground states and what this means for the election college. And a third thing to keep an eye on is what's been an interesting theme of this campaign is the difference in voting between men and women. Women tend to be slightly inclined to vote for more inclined to vote for Mr. Obama than men, and that is an interesting differential during this campaign. So those things I think we should keep our eyes on as the day unfolds.
I'm just seeing some live images now of voting taking place across America. Guyon Espiner, what would you characterise, or how would you characterise the two campaigns?
Well, I think a lot of people would be surprised to be going into this actual election day with Mitt Romney so close. I mean, if you go back a little way, that people thought that Barack Obama would be assured of a second term. I guess you're looking at a poor and struggling economy, which is the main thing which has really been holding things back for Barack Obama, and also an unconvincing performance in the debates. And people have been surprised at how well Mitt Romney has footed it there. I mean, people have accused him of actually sort of hiding his agenda, but he's appeared more moderate, hasn't he, in those debates, and really seemed to foot it with Obama, who was seen as this great rhetorician and this great public speaker. So I think that has surprised some people. But just picking up on those key things to watch out for, Ohio is this really good bellwether of a seat, because in every election it's gone the way of the president, except for 1960 when they went for Nixon over Kennedy. But other than that, where Ohio goes, the country goes. And so really, you can't ask for a better bellwether than that.
No, not at all. Guyon, what was the pivotal moment? Has there been a pivotal moment for you in this campaigning?
Well, I think for Romney, he started poorly, didn't he, with those gaffes, the 47% who had the victim mentality, and it looked like it was kind of all over for him. The first debate was when he got back in the game, and then Hurricane Sandy perhaps just started the momentum back towards Barack Obama. So I think if there was one, possibly it was that.
Okay, Professor Patman, what's at stake here for the US, or are the candidates actually not, a million miles away from each other?
Well, I think they both share a sense of US exceptionalism, the sense that America's the greatest nation in the world and that it's an exemplary democracy. They both are steeped in that sort of political culture, but I think they have quite different visions and different policies for America, and I think this campaign has showed that this election really it will decide whether America becomes a more or less inclusive country, and it will also determine to what extent America presents a constructive face to the outside world or a more aloof one, and I think these are the issues at stake.
Guy, could the result impact on New Zealand in any way when you think about, I guess, our warming relationship with Washington?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you never hear it from John Key, but I think that National will be hoping that Obama wins tonight. I mean, you could say that their sister party is the Republican Party because that's the more right wing, but really the Democratic Party is further to the right than National. That's just the way that our politics works. They'd take if it was a Romney-led White House, they'd be taking a tougher line on China. That would put us in a difficult position because of our close trading relationship and other warming relationships with China. I mean, we have been getting closer to America, but it's been uncomfortable, hasn't it? There's been some tension there. To pull that further to the right, to have a more aggressive, hawkish stance on defence, I think that would be more uncomfortable. So I think that the New Zealand government will probably be hoping for the status quo.
Professor Patman, as Guy mentioned, the economy is obviously big here and some issues of foreign policy. Mitt Romney has spoken, as well as being quite tough on China, he's spoken pretty strongly out against Iran and seems to be trying to align America closer with Israel as well.
Yeah, I mean, Romney's foreign policy, although it's been something of a moving target, because one of the things that was interesting is he criticised Mr. Obama for being weak in presenting America's foreign policy to the world, but when they actually had a debate on foreign policy, he largely agreed with the positions that the President struck during the debate. But what we do know is that, at least from a New Zealand's point of view, that Romney would appear to be taking the Bush line, that America would basically become more unilateralist in its foreign policy, and as Guy indicated, this could cause, I think, problems for New Zealand, not least because we have very good relations with both China and the United States, and if, as Mr. Romney claims, he's going to, from day one, as he put it, publicly charge China as being a currency manipulator, that could have big implications for us here in New Zealand.
Okay, Professor Robert Patman, we'll leave it there.